There is something happening right now that you have been trained not to notice. Not because it's invisible, not because it's hidden behind some veil of mystery that only the spiritually advanced can pierce, but because the moment you truly see it, the moment you stop skimming the surface of your own existence and actually look at what is happening in this precise instant, everything changes, and change, even the change you've been begging for, is something the mind resists with extraordinary sophistication. So before we go any further, I want you to do something unusual. I want you to stop. Not metaphorically. Actually stop. Stop the part of you that's already categorizing this, already filing it under a label, already deciding what this is going to be before it has a chance to be anything at all. Because what we are about to look at together is not a concept. It is not a teaching. It is not a set of ideas you can nod along to and then carry back into the same life you walked in with. What we are about to look at is you. Specifically, the version of you that has been operating just outside your field of awareness. The version that has been responding to something vast, something precise, something that functions with a kind of intelligence that your analytical mind cannot fully contain, and doing so without your conscious participation. The version of you that has been making choices, generating patterns, and shaping the field of your experience while the conscious, narrating part of you has been busy managing appearances. That ends today. And I want to be precise about what I mean by that. I do not mean that everything changes in a single dramatic instant. I mean that the quality of observation changes. And when the quality of observation changes, everything that depends on going unobserved, every pattern, every loop, every story that has been running in the background of your life, loses the one condition it requires to persist: the dark. The unexamined, the space between what you actually look at and what you steer around. Today, that space gets smaller, and what shrinks in the space of honest observation does not return to its original size. That is not metaphor, that is the physics of what observation does. Now I want to address something directly, because if I don't, it will sit in the back of your mind and interfere with everything that follows. The title of this transmission contains language you've seen before, language about the universe choosing you, language about midnight, language about urgency, and something in you, the part that has been burned before, the part that has watched itself reach for promises that dissolved on contact. That part is already bracing. Good. Let it brace. Let it be skeptical. Because skepticism, real skepticism, is not the same as dismissal. Real skepticism is the willingness to look carefully, to examine what is actually being said rather than what you've been conditioned to fear it might be. And what I'm about to show you is that the language of urgency, the language of chosenness, the language of cosmic timing, these are not inventions of marketers or mystics. They are descriptions of something that quantum physics has been trying to tell us for over a century. Something that ancient traditions encoded in their most protected teachings. Something that your own nervous system already knows and has been trying to communicate to you in the only language available to it. The universe is not passive, and neither are you. But you've been watching from the wrong angle. Let's look closer. Here's what no one tells you about the observer effect. Not the simplified version you've heard in inspirational videos, not the watered-down metaphor that gets passed around in self-help circles, but the actual, precise, measurable phenomenon that physicists have been grappling with since the double-slit experiment first broke their models of reality in ways they still haven't fully recovered from. When a quantum particle, an electron, a photon, a unit of the fundamental stuff from which all matter is constructed, is not being observed. It does not exist in a single location. It does not travel a single path. It exists as a wave of probability, simultaneously occupying multiple potential states, multiple potential positions, multiple potential futures. It is, in the most literal sense possible, undecided. Reality, at its most fundamental level, is not a fixed structure. It is a field of possibility, a superposition of everything that could be. And then something happens. An observer, a measuring device, a conscious system, anything that interacts with the particle in a way that registers information, looks, and the wave collapses. The infinite field of probability narrows to a single point. The particle is suddenly here, not there. It has a position, it has a definite state, it has, in a word that should stop you cold, a reality. The act of observation does not reveal what was already there. The act of observation creates what is there. This is not philosophy, this is measurable. This has been replicated in laboratories thousands of times. This is the bedrock of quantum mechanics, the most precisely tested theory in the history of science. And it means something about your life that most people are not willing to sit with long enough to understand. If reality at its fundamental level is a probability field that collapses into specific form through observation, then the quality of your observation, what you look at, how you look at it, the frequency and clarity with which you direct your attention, is not a metaphor for how you create your experience. It is the literal mechanism by which your experience is constructed. What you watch, you change. What you refuse to watch continues to exist in superposition, not resolved, not collapsed into clarity, but hovering in that undecided quantum state, influencing everything around it without your conscious participation. What you avoid looking at does not disappear. It becomes the background radiation of your life, the hum beneath everything, the thing that shapes your choices without ever having to announce itself. And here's where the urgency becomes real. Not the artificial urgency of a countdown clock, the urgency of a life that is being shaped by forces you haven't looked at yet. Watch what happens in your body when you hear this. Notice the slight tightening or the sudden stillness or the impulse to shift in your seat. That response, that involuntary somatic signal, is your nervous system recognizing something your analytical mind is still processing. Something in you already knows what I'm pointing at. Something in you has known for longer than you'd like to admit. The universe did not choose you in the way a lottery chooses a winner. The universe chose you in the way a quantum field responds to a specific frequency of observation. It didn't pick you arbitrarily from a crowd. It responded to something you've been emitting, something you've been broadcasting at a level below conscious intention, something that functions like a signal in the probability field of reality. And the response, the convergence of circumstances, the appearance of this transmission in your awareness at this precise moment, is not coincidence. It is collapse. The wave function of a possibility you've been holding, perhaps without knowing you were holding it, has just collapsed into form. But here's the layer underneath that. The response is only the beginning. What happens next depends entirely on whether you observe it clearly or whether you do what most people do, which is to see the beginning of a transformation, feel the flutter of recognition, and then immediately reach for an interpretation that makes it safe, familiar, and therefore small. Most people never see this because they're too busy reacting to observe. They feel the moment of recognition and immediately translate it into a story. A story about what this means, about what they should do, about whether they deserve it, about whether it's real. And the moment the story starts, the observation stops. And the moment the observation stops, the wave function of possibility begins to re-expand back into undecidedness. The collapse reverses, the clarity dissolves. And they are left with the faint memory of a moment when something felt true, wondering why it never materialized. This is the mechanism behind every transformation that almost happened, every breakthrough that approached and then retreated, every version of your life that you could almost see but couldn't quite hold. Not because you weren't ready, not because you didn't deserve it, because you stopped watching, and I want you to sit with that for a moment before we move forward. Because there is a particular quality of grief that belongs to the almost transformation. The moment that came close, the version of your life that you could feel approaching and then felt recede. Most people interpret that recession as evidence that the transformation wasn't real or wasn't meant for them, or that they failed in some fundamental way. But that interpretation is itself a story, and the story is wrong. The recession was not a judgment, it was a physics event. The coherence dissipated, the observations stopped, the wave function re-expanded, and the possibility returned to superposition, still there, still real, still available, just unresolved again, waiting for the quality of observation that would collapse it. You have not failed, you have been observing imperfectly, which is to say, you have been human. And the accumulation of even imperfect observation builds toward something. It builds toward this, toward the threshold you are standing at right now. If what we're looking at together is landing for you, take a second to like this video and subscribe so we can keep going deeper together. Now let's stay with this. Let me show you something. There is a story, not ancient, not from a tradition, but from the kind of place where real things happen, which is to say, from the interior of a human life that had reached its limit. There was a man named Elias, not a mystic, not a seeker in any formal sense, a man who had built his life with precision and care, the way you build something when you are afraid of what happens if it falls apart. He had constructed his career, his relationships, his daily routines, his sense of self, with the kind of methodical attention that looks like discipline, but is actually something else. Something he had never looked at directly. Elias was not unhappy, exactly. He had learned to live in the narrow corridor between comfort and numbness, which most people call stability. He had a life that made sense on paper, and every time something arose, a feeling, an impulse, a sudden, inexplicable certainty that something was missing, he did what he had always done. He looked away. He redirected his attention to the next task, the next obligation, the next thing that needed managing. He was extraordinarily good at looking away. Until one night, sitting alone in a room that contained everything he had worked for, he noticed something he had never noticed before. He noticed that he was watching himself not look. He caught himself in the act of avoidance, and for just a moment, a single vertiginous moment, he held his attention on the thing he had been steering around for years. He didn't analyze it. He didn't try to fix it. He didn't reach for a solution or a framework or a spiritual teaching that would help him process it. He just watched it. The way you watch something when you finally stop pretending it isn't there. And here's what happened, which is the part of the story that matters. Nothing dramatic occurred. The room did not fill with light. He did not have a vision. He did not receive a message from the universe in any form he could have described to someone else. What happened was quieter and more devastating than any of that. What happened was that the thing he had been avoiding, the thing he had spent years steering around, simply became visible. And in becoming visible, it became something other than what he had feared it was. He had been avoiding grief, not grief over a single loss, but the accumulated grief of a life lived in the narrow corridor, the grief of all the moments he had redirected his attention away from what he actually felt. And he had been avoiding it because somewhere in the architecture of his understanding, he had decided that if he looked at it directly, it would consume him. That it was too large. That seeing it clearly would mean it was real. And if it was real, it would be permanent. And if it was permanent, there was no way forward. But here's what he saw when he finally watched it. He saw that it was not consuming him. He saw that it had always been there, and that the energy he had been spending on not looking at it was far larger than the thing itself. He saw that the avoidance had been the weight, not the grief. The grief, observed directly, was simply a feeling, a wave of sensation and meaning that moved through him, not a wall that stopped him. And in the watching, something shifted. Not because he had fixed anything, not because he had resolved anything, but because the act of clear observation had done what clear observation always does. It had collapsed the probability field around that particular piece of his reality from an unresolved superposition of everything it might be into something specific, something real, something that could now be moved through rather than around. The universe did not choose Elias that night because he was special. The universe responded to Elias that night because he finally looked, because he directed the full quality of his attention at something that had been existing in the unobserved background of his life, influencing everything without his participation. And the moment he looked, the field responded, not with drama, with collapse, with the quiet, irreversible transformation of something undecided becoming decided. And you have been both Elias before the looking and Elias in the moment of looking. You have been the one who steers around the thing and the one who feels the pull toward it. And today, something in you chose to stop steering. That's not belief. That's quantum mechanics. Pause here. This is not a thought exercise. This is an observation. And I want you to do it precisely, not approximately. Close your eyes if you can. If you're somewhere that doesn't allow that, simply soften your gaze and let the external world blur slightly at the edges. Take one breath. Not a deep performative breath, just a breath. And as you exhale, ask yourself this question, not out loud, not as a thought you're trying to answer, as a direction for your attention. What have I been not looking at? Don't reach for the answer, don't construct it. Just watch what arises, watch what your attention moves toward before your analytical mind can redirect it. Watch the first thing that surfaces, even if it's uncomfortable, even if it doesn't make sense, even if part of you immediately wants to qualify it or explain it away. Watch it. Don't interpret it yet. Don't decide what it means. Don't reach for what you should do about it. Just observe it with the same quality of attention you would give to something you were seeing for the first time. Because in a very real sense, you are whatever arose, and something arose. Something always arises when you ask this question with genuine attention. That is the quantum event we are working with today. That is the superposition that has been hovering in the unobserved background of your life, influencing the field of your reality without your conscious participation. That is the thing the universe has been waiting for you to look at. Not because looking at it will fix it, because looking at it will collapse it from an unresolved possibility into something real. Something you can actually work with. Something that, in the light of clear observation, will reveal itself to be something other than what you feared it was. Open your eyes, come back, and let's go deeper into what you're actually seeing. Here is the layer underneath that. The concept of being chosen by the universe is one that has been weaponized so thoroughly, turned into a tool for selling things, for inflating egos, for creating the kind of false urgency that makes people act against their own interests. That most intelligent people have developed an immunity to it, a reflexive dismissal. And that dismissal, while understandable, is costing them something. Because beneath the manipulation, beneath the exploitation of this language, there is a real phenomenon being described. And the real phenomenon is this: the universe, meaning the quantum field of probability that underlies all physical reality, does not respond to everyone equally. Not because some people are more deserving, but because some people are more observable. Some people have developed, through intention or through suffering or through some combination of the two, the capacity to direct their attention with enough clarity and consistency that the field has something to respond to. Think of it this way. A radio receiver that is tuned to a specific frequency receives a specific signal. Not because the signal chose that receiver, because the receiver is calibrated to receive it. The signal was always broadcasting. Most receivers are picking up so much noise, the static of unexamined thoughts, unobserved patterns, unresolved emotional superpositions, that the signal is buried. But when a receiver clears enough of the noise, when it develops enough sensitivity through the practice of clear observation, the signal becomes audible. The field responds. The collapse becomes precise. Now watch this more carefully, because there is a layer inside this metaphor that most people miss entirely. The noise that buries the signal is not random. It is not the ordinary chaos of a busy life. It is specific. It is the accumulated static of every unexamined assumption, every unobserved pattern, every story you have been telling yourself about who you are and what is possible for you that you have never once looked at directly. The noise has a structure, and the structure of the noise is the precise mirror image of the clarity you are trying to develop. This means that the practice of observation is not just about looking at new things, it is about looking at the noise itself. Turning the quality of clear attention not just outward toward the possibilities you want to collapse, but inward toward the static that has been preventing collapse. Watching the avoidance, watching the story, watching the mechanism of the frosted glass itself. Because the moment you observe the noise clearly, it begins to lose coherence. The static that has been drowning out the signal starts to thin, and the signal, the specific frequency of possibility that has been broadcasting into your field all along, becomes audible. You are here in this moment watching this transmission because something in your field has been clearing. Not because you've been doing everything right, not because you've reached some threshold of worthiness, but because the practice of looking, even imperfect, even inconsistent, even the stumbling, half-committed looking that most of us do, has been accumulating. And accumulation in a quantum field is not linear. It doesn't build gradually to a threshold and then tip over. It builds, and then, at a specific moment of sufficient coherence, it collapses all at once into something unmistakable. This is the midnight the title is pointing at. Not a clock, a threshold. The moment at which the accumulation of observation reaches the coherence required for collapse. The moment at which the probability field of a specific possibility narrows to the point where it becomes, in the most literal sense, real. And the reason the window matters, the reason there is a before and an after, a now and a too late, is not because the universe is arbitrary or capricious or running on a schedule. It's because coherence is fragile. The clarity that creates collapse is not a permanent state. It is a moment of alignment between the quality of your observation and the readiness of the field. And like all moments of alignment, it has a duration. It is not infinite. It will not wait indefinitely while you decide whether you're ready. The question is not whether you're ready. The question is whether you're willing to watch. Let's go deeper. There is a concept in quantum physics called decoherence. It is the process by which a quantum system, a particle, a wave function, a superposition of possible states, loses its quantum properties through interaction with its environment. Through the noise of everything around it, the system loses coherence. The superposition collapses not into a single clear state, but into a kind of classical muddle. The quantum possibilities average out into something that looks like ordinary deterministic reality. Something that looks like the life you've always had. Decoherence is what happens when you stop observing clearly, when you let the noise of your environment, your habitual thoughts, your unexamined assumptions, your social conditioning, your fear-based interpretations, when you let all of that flood back in and overwhelm the signal of clear seeing. The quantum possibilities that were available to you, the specific collapse that was approaching, loses coherence, and you are left with the classical average, the default, the life that was always going to happen if nothing intervened. The intervention is observation, your observation, not passive, not unfocused, not the kind of glazed attention that most people call awareness, but is actually just the absence of distraction. I mean the active, directed, precise quality of watching that refuses to look away. The kind of looking that Elias did in that room. The kind of looking that changes the thing being looked at simply by virtue of its clarity. Here is what no one tells you about this. The reason most people cannot maintain this quality of observation is not because they lack intelligence or spiritual development or the right techniques. It is because clear observation is uncomfortable, not in a dramatic way, in the specific, persistent way of seeing something you have been pretending wasn't there. When you look clearly at your life, at the patterns that keep repeating, at the relationships that keep producing the same outcomes, at the gap between who you present yourself as and who you actually are in the privacy of your own experience, what you see is not always beautiful. It is often precisely the thing you have been steering around. And the mind, which has developed sophisticated strategies for maintaining its current model of reality, will generate extraordinary amounts of noise to prevent that clarity from persisting. It will offer you a thought, a distraction, a sudden urgent task, a memory, a plan, a feeling that you've already understood this and don't need to keep looking. It will offer you anything except the continued experience of clear, uninterrupted observation. Because the mind knows at some level what clear observation does. It knows that the moment you watch something clearly enough, long enough, without flinching, it changes, and change, even the change the mind has been theoretically wanting, disrupts the current architecture. And disruption, even liberating disruption, feels like loss before it feels like freedom. This is the mechanism behind every spiritual practice that has ever worked. Not the specific techniques, not the particular traditions, not the cosmologies or the rituals or the specific language used to describe the process. The mechanism is always the same, directing clear attention at what had been unobserved and holding it there long enough for collapse to occur. The Buddha called it witnessing, the Stoics called it the examined life. Quantum physics calls it measurement. The language is different, the phenomenon is identical. And here is the specific application to your life right now, in this moment, with whatever it was that arose when you asked yourself what you had been not looking at. That thing, that specific, particular thing that surfaced in the space of honest attention, is not a problem to be solved. It is a probability field waiting to be collapsed. It is a superposition of everything it might be, hovering in the unobserved background, influencing your choices and your responses and your sense of what is possible without ever having to announce itself. And the reason it has been influencing you without your participation is precisely because you haven't looked at it directly. Because the moment you do, it loses the power of the unobserved. It becomes specific. It becomes real. And real things, unlike unresolved superpositions, can be moved through. Watch what happens in your body when you hear this. Notice the shift. Notice the part of you that recognizes this as true, not because you've been convinced of it, but because you already knew it, because you have felt the difference between carrying something unobserved and the moment when you finally look at it, and it becomes somehow smaller and more manageable than the shadow it had been casting. You already see it. You just haven't fully admitted it to yourself yet. What was it that you finally stopped looking away from? Drop it in the comments. One word or a full description, whatever feels true. The field of people watching alongside you is real, and your willingness to name it out loud does something to the collective coherence here. Let me show you something else. Watch this carefully. There was a woman named Mira who had spent 7 years studying the nature of attention. Not in an academic institution, though she had been through those as well. She had studied it in the laboratory of her own experience, which is the only laboratory where the results are personal enough to matter. She had read the quantum physics. She had sat in meditation. She had done the work, as people say, meaning she had looked at the things that were uncomfortable to look at and had not looked away. And she had arrived at a question that she could not resolve through any of the framework she had accumulated. The question was this: if observation changes what is observed, then who is the observer? If the act of watching transforms the thing being watched, then what is the nature of the thing that watches? Is the observer itself subject to observation? And if so, who observes the observer? This question had followed her for years, not as an abstract philosophical puzzle, but as a lived, felt uncertainty. Because she had noticed something in her practice of clear observation that troubled her. She had noticed that the more clearly she watched her thoughts, her patterns, her emotional responses, the more she seemed to dissolve. Not into confusion or chaos, but into something that had no edges, something that couldn't be located, something that the more she looked at it, the less it resembled the Mira she had always assumed herself to be. One afternoon, sitting by a window in a city she was passing through, she was watching the street below, not with intention, just watching. And she noticed that she was not choosing what to observe. Her attention was moving freely, without direction, from a child to a pigeon to a crack in the pavement to the quality of light on a building across the street. And she noticed that in this free movement of attention, there was no Mira deciding where to look. There was only looking, pure, undirected, observerless observation. And in that moment, the question dissolved, not because she had answered it, because she had seen through it. The question assumed that there was a fixed observer, a Mira, who was doing the observing. But what she saw in that moment of pure watching was that the observer was not a thing, it was a process. It was the act of looking itself prior to any identity, prior to any story about who was doing the looking. This is the deepest layer of the quantum observer effect, and it is the layer that most explanations stop short of because it is the most disorienting and the most liberating. The observer is not a fixed entity that exists independently and then chooses to observe. The observer is constituted by the act of observation. You are not someone who watches reality, you are the watching. And the moment you see this clearly, the moment you observe the observer and find not a fixed self, but a dynamic, responsive, open process of awareness, the entire question of whether the universe chose you inverts. You didn't wait to be chosen, you chose to look. And in choosing to look, you became the precise instrument through which this particular configuration of reality collapses into form. That is not grandiosity. That is physics. And here is what Mira did with this recognition, because the recognition alone is not the end of the story. After that afternoon by the window, she returned to her life with something different in her. Not a technique, not a belief, a quality of presence, a way of moving through her days that was less like someone navigating a complex terrain and more like someone watching a landscape unfold. She stopped trying to direct her observation toward specific outcomes. She stopped using clarity as a tool for getting what she wanted. She simply watched. And in the watching, she noticed something that she had not been able to see when she was trying so hard to see correctly. She noticed that the field of her life was not waiting for her to figure out the right way to observe it. It was responding constantly and precisely to the quality of attention she was bringing to each moment. When her attention was clear, things moved. When her attention was clouded by story or strategy or the personality's need to control the outcome, things stalled, not because the universe was rewarding or punishing her, because the wave function collapses most precisely when the observation is most clear. The field responds to clarity the way a photographic plate responds to light. The sharper the focus, the more precise the image. Let's go deeper into what you're actually seeing. The midnight threshold I mentioned, let's look at it more precisely because it deserves more than a metaphor. In quantum field theory, there is a concept called a phase transition. It's the moment at which a system that has been accumulating energy or coherence or some other quantifiable property reaches a critical point and undergoes a sudden, discontinuous change in its fundamental state. Water becoming ice, a magnetic material becoming magnetized, a laser reaching the threshold at which spontaneous emission becomes coherent light. Phase transitions are not gradual, they are sudden. They are threshold events. The system builds and builds and builds, and then, at a specific point, everything changes at once. The ice does not gradually become slightly more icy. At exactly 0 degrees Celsius, at exactly the right pressure, the entire structure reorganizes. The water becomes ice, not incrementally, all at once. This is what the threshold of observation looks like in human experience. The work of looking, the accumulated practice of directing clear attention at what has been unobserved, does not produce gradual, linear improvement in your experience of reality. It builds, often invisibly, often with no apparent progress, until a threshold is reached. And then, at that threshold, the field reorganizes. Not gradually, all at once. The way ice forms, the way a laser coherence emerges, the way a life that has been hovering in superposition suddenly, irreversibly, collapses into a specific and unmistakable form. The urgency is not manufactured. The threshold is real. And the reason it matters that you are here, watching this, in this specific moment, is not because the universe has scheduled a deadline. It's because you have been accumulating. And something in your field, something in the quality and consistency of your observation, however imperfect, has been approaching a threshold. And thresholds, by their nature, are not permanent opportunities. They are moments of critical coherence that either result in phase transition or dissipate back into the average. You are at a threshold not because I'm telling you that you are, because something in you recognized it before this transmission began. Because the fact that you are still here, still watching, still willing to look, that is not random. That is coherence. That is a system that has been accumulating, approaching its critical point. The question is not whether the transition is available. The question is whether you will maintain the quality of observation required to complete it. Let's do the second practice. This one goes deeper. Pause here. This is not a thought exercise. This is an observation. I want you to observe yourself observing. Not your thoughts, not your feelings, not the content of your experience. The fact of your awareness itself, the simple, undeniable, prior to everything else fact that you are here, that you are aware, that something in you is registering this moment. Notice that you cannot step outside of awareness to look at it. Notice that every attempt to observe the observer simply reveals more awareness. Notice that the thing doing the looking cannot be found as an object, cannot be located, cannot be pinned down, and yet is undeniably present. More present, in fact, than anything else in your experience. More certain than any thought, more fundamental than any feeling, more constant than any circumstance. This is the observer, not a personality, not a story, not the collection of preferences and memories and habits that you usually call yourself. This is the pure fact of awareness prior to any content. The watching before the watcher, the seeing before the seer. And here's what I want you to notice. This pure, prior, contentless awareness is not something you need to create or achieve or develop. It is already here. It has always been here. It is, in fact, the only thing that has been continuously present throughout every experience of your life. The only thing that did not change when everything else changed. The only thing that was there in childhood and is here now and will be here in every moment that follows. This is your actual nature, not the personality, not the story, the awareness, the observer, the pure fact of seeing. And from this position, from the position of the observer prior to any particular identity, look at your life. Look at the patterns. Look at the thing that arose earlier when you asked what you had been not looking at. Look at it from here, from this position of pure awareness, without the defensive architecture of the personality that has been avoiding it. Notice what happens. Notice how different the thing looks from here. Notice how the weight of it shifts when it is observed from the position of pure awareness, rather than from the position of the personality that has been afraid of it. Notice that from here there is no threat. There is only information. There is only the field and the observer and the collapse of possibility into clarity. This is the observer state. This is the most powerful position in the universe. Not because it controls, because it sees clearly. And clarity is the only force that transforms without resistance. Come back, breathe. And let's look at the deeper application. Here's where it gets precise, because everything we've explored so far, the quantum mechanics, the parable of Elias, the nature of the observer, the threshold of collapse, all of it is pointing at something specific in your life. And I want to name it as directly as I can, even though I cannot know your particular circumstances, because the structure of what I'm pointing at is universal, even when the content is personal. There is a version of your life that you have been holding in superposition, not imagining exactly, not planning, not even hoping in the active sense of that word. Holding, in the way you hold a breath, in the way you hold a question that you're not sure you want answered, in the way you hold a possibility that feels simultaneously inevitable and impossible. This version of your life is not a fantasy. It is not a projection of what you wish were true. It is a genuine possibility that the quantum field of your experience has been generating. A real probability, not a zero probability, that has been hovering in the unobserved background, because looking at it directly would require something you haven't been fully willing to give it yet. It would require you to stop maintaining the story of why it isn't possible. Watch what happens in your body when you hear that, because there it is. That's the thing, not the vision itself, the story that has been blocking the collapse. The narrative that has been functioning as the noise that prevents coherence. The explanation for why this particular version of your life remains a superposition rather than a reality. You know the story. You've been telling it for long enough that it feels like truth rather than narrative. It sounds like I would, but, or I want to, accept, or I've tried and it didn't, or people like me don't, or by now it's probably too late, or some variation of these that is specific enough to your particular history that it sounds like fact rather than the sophisticated avoidance strategy that it actually is. That story is not protecting you. It is maintaining the superposition. It is the mechanism by which you keep the possibility alive, because a story of why something isn't possible is still a story about the thing, while simultaneously preventing the collapse into reality. It is the quantum equivalent of looking at something through frosted glass. You can see the shape, you can sense the presence, but the observation is not clear enough to trigger collapse. The story is the frosted glass. And here is the most confrontational thing I will say in this entire transmission, so I want you to hear it clearly. You know this. You have known this. Some part of you has been aware with uncomfortable precision that the story is a choice, not a conscious, deliberate choice in the way you choose what to eat for breakfast, but a choice in the deeper sense, a sustained direction of attention, a habitual orientation of observation, a practiced way of looking that has been maintained because the alternative, looking without the story, looking with full clarity at what is actually there, felt like too much. Too much what? That varies. Too much responsibility, too much vulnerability, too much risk of being wrong, too much grief at the time already spent in the narrow corridor, too much of the specific flavor of discomfort that belongs to you and your particular history. But here is what Elias discovered in that room. Here is what Mira saw by the window. Here is what every person who has ever undergone a genuine phase transition has found on the other side of it. The too muchness was the story, not the thing. The actual thing, observed directly without the protective narrative, was not consuming. It was clarifying. It was the moment at which the superposition collapsed into something real. Something that could be moved through, something that in the light of clear observation revealed itself to be the doorway rather than the wall. The universe did not choose you to receive something from outside yourself. The universe responded to the coherence of your observation with the one thing it can offer: collapse. The resolution of superposition into reality. The transformation of possibility into form. And the form it collapses into is determined by the quality of what you're watching, by whether you're watching through the frosted glass of the story or with the clear, direct, unflinching attention of the observer in their pure state. Has there been a moment in your own life when watching something clearly, really looking at it without flinching, dissolved its power over you? Tell me in the comments what you saw when you finally stopped looking away. These observations matter more than you know. This is where the midnight threshold becomes personal, because the window for this particular collapse, the one that is available to you right now in this specific configuration of your life, with this specific accumulation of observation behind you, is not infinite. Not because the universe closes doors, but because coherence dissipates. Because the phase transition requires the system to maintain a specific quality of observation through the threshold. And the longer you wait, the more noise accumulates, the more the story reasserts itself, the more the frosted glass thickens. Not forever. You will have other opportunities. The field is not punitive. But this particular configuration, this particular threshold, this particular moment of coherence that you are in right now, this one has a duration. And the duration is measured not in hours, but in the quality of your attention. The moment you stop watching clearly, the coherence begins to dissipate. The moment you pick the story back up, the frosted glass returns. So watch, right now. Watch what is actually there beneath the story. Watch the possibility you've been holding in superposition. Watch it without the narrative of why it isn't available. Watch it with the eyes of the pure observer, the awareness prior to personality, the seeing before the seer. Watch it collapse. Let's look at something that will seem counterintuitive at first, but will resolve into clarity if you stay with it. The idea that the universe chose you, that there is something specifically directed at you, something that selected you from the field of all possible recipients. This idea activates something in people that is worth examining carefully. Because there are two very different things it can activate, and which one it activates in you reveals something important about where you are in the work of clear observation. In one person, the idea of being chosen activates a kind of grasping, a reaching, a sudden urgency that is not the urgency of coherence, but the urgency of the personality that has been waiting to be validated. waiting to be told it is special, waiting for external confirmation that its existence has value and meaning. This kind of urgency is noise. It is the static that prevents coherence. It is the personality reaching for the collapse, rather than allowing the observer to watch it occur. In another person, and I suspect this is closer to where you actually are, or you would have left long before now, the idea of being chosen activates something quieter, a recognition, a settling, a sense not of grasping but of arriving, a feeling that is less like excitement and more like the moment you stop holding your breath. This is the resonance of coherence. This is the field recognizing itself. This is not the personality being validated, but the observer recognizing the precise moment it has been accumulating toward. The difference between these two responses is the difference between wanting the collapse and being the observer through which collapse occurs. And this distinction is not subtle, it is the entire thing. It is the difference between a person who watches the double-slit experiment trying to control which slit the particle goes through and a person who simply observes with clear, non-grasping attention and allows the wave function to collapse into its natural form. You cannot force collapse. You can only create the conditions for it. And the primary condition is the quality of your observation. Clear, direct, non-grasping, non-interpretive, non-story-laden watching. This is why the observer state practice matters, not as a technique, as a way of being in this moment, as the specific quality of attention that you bring to the threshold you are standing at right now. And here's the third layer of practice, the deepest one we will do together today. Pause here. This is the most important observation in this entire transmission. I want you to look at the thing you've been holding in superposition. The possibility, the version of your life that has been hovering in the unobserved background. Not with the story, not with the explanation of why it isn't available, not with the personality's need to grasp or control or validate. With the eyes of the pure observer, with the awareness prior to story. Look at it, just look at it, without deciding what it means, without deciding what you should do about it,
without deciding whether you deserve it or whether it's realistic or whether you've left it too late. Just observe it, the way you observe a landscape, the way you observe a piece of music, the way you observe something that is simply, undeniably there. And as you observe it, notice this. It is not threatening. It is not too large. It is not consuming. It is simply a specific configuration of possibility that has been hovering in the probability field of your experience, waiting for the quality of observation that would collapse it from potential into real. It is waiting for exactly this quality of attention, exactly this willingness to look without flinching. Now watch what happens in your body as you hold it in clear observation. Notice the shift in your nervous system. Notice the way the quality of your breathing changes. Notice whether the weight of it, the weight you've been carrying by not looking at it, begins to change, not disappear, change. Become specific rather than diffuse. Become real rather than looming. This is collapse in progress. This is the phase transition beginning. This is the quantum event that this entire transmission has been building toward. Hold the observation, don't rush past it, don't reach for what comes next. Just watch. For as long as you can maintain the clarity, for as long as the observer is present and the story is quiet. This is the practice. This is the work. This is the most powerful thing you can do with your attention.
come back slowly. Take a breath and let's talk about what comes after. Here is the layer that most people miss when they talk about quantum observation and reality creation. They focus on the moment of collapse, the dramatic instant of transformation, the phase transition, the breakthrough, and they treat it as the destination. They treat it as the thing they've been working toward, the reward for the accumulated observation, the payoff. But the moment of collapse is not the destination. It is the beginning of a new field of possibility. And the new field of possibility requires the same quality of observation that collapsed the previous one. The observer's work is never finished. Not because reality is always broken and always needs fixing, but because reality is always in process. Always in some state of partial superposition, always containing more possibility than has yet been collapsed. Always responsive to the quality of attention directed at it. The person who undergoes a genuine phase transition and then stops observing clearly, who takes the collapse as permission to stop watching, who returns to the story, who lets the frosted glass thicken again, that person will find within weeks or months that the new configuration of their life begins to accumulate its own unobserved background, its own superpositions, its own areas of avoidance, and the work begins again. This is not a failure of the process. This is the process. Reality is not a problem you solve once and then live in the solution. Reality is a field you are always in relationship with, always observing, always co-creating through the quality of your attention. The observer is not a state you achieve, it is a practice you maintain, a discipline of looking, a commitment to not looking away from the things that the personality finds uncomfortable to see. A sustained willingness to watch your own life with the same clear, non-grasping, non-interpretive attention that you brought to the practice moments ago. And this sustained practice of observation is what the channel you're watching right now is about. Not a single transmission that transforms everything. A continuous practice of looking. A community of observers who have chosen, individually and collectively, to stop reacting and start witnessing. To stop managing their experience and start watching it transform in the light of clear attention. Because here's something that the quantum physics of observation reveals about collective watching that most people haven't considered. The observer effect is not limited to individual observers. In quantum field theory, entangled particles that have interacted and are now correlated regardless of the distance between them, respond to observation as a system. When you observe one particle in an entangled pair, the other particle's state is instantaneously determined regardless of how far away it is. The observation of one affects the reality of the other. What does this mean for a community of observers? What does it mean when a field of people, each individually practicing clear observation, each individually collapsing their own superpositions, each individually moving through their own phase transitions? What does it mean when all of this is happening in the same field, in the same community, in the same shared space of attention? It means that your observation is not only collapsing your own probability field, it is contributing to the coherence of the collective field. Your clarity amplifies the clarity available to everyone who is watching alongside you. Your willingness to look at what you've been avoiding makes it slightly easier for someone else to look at what they've been avoiding. The entanglement is real. The collective observer effect is real. And I want to stay with this for a moment because it has implications that go beyond what most people consider when they think about personal transformation. When you look clearly at something you've been avoiding, When you name it, when you observe it without the story, when you allow the collapse to occur, you are not just changing your own field. You are demonstrating to the collective field that looking is survivable, that the thing you were afraid to see did not consume you. That clarity, however uncomfortable in the moment, produces something on the other side that is more livable than the avoidance was. This demonstration is not abstract. It is not merely symbolic. In a field of entangled observers, your act of clear seeing literally shifts the probability distribution of what is available to every other observer in the field. Not because of some mystical connection, though the language of mysticism has been pointing at this for centuries. Because of the physics of entangled systems and the way that observation in one part of a correlated field affects the entire field. Your looking matters beyond you. Your clarity has reach. The phase transition you undergo does not stay contained within the boundaries of your individual experience. It ripples. This is why the community engagement at the end of these transmissions is not a formality, it is a quantum event. When you share what you saw, when you name the thing you've been avoiding, when you describe the quality of your observation, when you type the declaration that marks your willingness to look, you are not just communicating information, you are contributing coherence to the collective field. You are being the observation that amplifies the observation of everyone else who is watching. I want to ask you to do something with that in mind. In the comments below this transmission, I want you to share one word, not an explanation, not a story. One word that describes what arose when you looked at what you'd been not looking at. The single word that captures the quality of the thing you finally observed. Not what you're going to do about it, not what it means, just what you saw. And if you're willing to go further, if you're willing to mark this moment of threshold with the declaration that it deserves, type this, I see it now, and it can't unsee itself. Because that is the truth of what has happened in this transmission. Whatever you looked at, whatever arose in the space of honest attention, whatever collapsed in the practice moments we move through together, it has been seen. And what has been seen cannot be unseen. The observation has already occurred. The collapse has already begun. The phase transition is already in process. The only question remaining is whether you will maintain the quality of observation required to complete it. Whether you will continue to look even when the story tries to reassert itself. Whether you will return to the observer state, the pure awareness prior to personality, the seeing before the seer, when the noise of daily life threatens to drown out the signal. And here is the integration principle that will help you do that. It is simple, it is not easy, but it is simple. Every time you notice yourself looking away from something, every time you feel the impulse to redirect your attention, to pick up the story, to reach for an explanation or a distraction or a plan, pause. Just pause and ask yourself, what am I not looking at right now? Not to torture yourself, not to force yourself into perpetual uncomfortable examination, but to maintain the practice of honest observation, to keep the frosted glass from thickening, to preserve the coherence that you have been accumulating and that has brought you to this threshold. You don't have to look at everything at once. You don't have to resolve every superposition in a single session of clear seeing. You just have to keep looking, keep the quality of your attention honest, keep the observer present, keep watching. And when you find yourself in a moment when the noise is louder than the signal, when the story is asserting itself with particular force, when the frosted glass seems to be thickening faster than your observation can clear it, remember this. The noise is not evidence that you are failing. The noise is evidence that you are approaching something. The mind generates its most sophisticated interference precisely when the observation is getting close to something significant. The resistance is not a sign to stop. It is a sign that you are almost there, that the threshold is near, that the phase transition is within reach. Watch the resistance. Don't fight it. Don't try to push through it or dissolve it or transcend it. Just observe it with the same quality of clear attention you would give to anything else. Watch it the way Elias watched the grief. With the eyes of the pure observer, the awareness prior to personality, the seeing before the seer. And notice what happens to the resistance when it is observed clearly. Notice how it shifts, how it loses the quality of a wall and becomes the quality of a wave, something that moves through rather than stops you. Because here's what happens when you do. Here is what the accumulated practice of clear observation produces over time. And this is the thing I want you to carry with you from this transmission more than anything else. When you consistently observe your life with clarity, when you consistently refuse to look away from the things the personality finds uncomfortable, when you consistently return to the observer state and watch from the position of pure awareness, the field of your experience begins to reorganize, not because you've forced it, not because you've manifested a specific outcome, but because the quality of your observation has changed the quality of the field's response. The probability distributions shift. The configurations of possibility that were hovering in unobserved superposition begin to collapse into specific, real, workable forms. The patterns that were running your life from the unobserved background lose their power, not because you've defeated them, but because you've seen them clearly, and what is seen clearly is no longer operating in the dark. The relationships that were stuck in the same loops begin to move, not because you've changed the other person, but because your observation of your own role in the loop has shifted the field between you. The work that felt impossible begins to open, not because the obstacles have disappeared, but because your clear observation of them has revealed them to be specific problems rather than general impossibilities. The version of your life that has been hovering in superposition begins to collapse into form, not because you forced it, but because you finally looked at it with enough clarity and consistency that the field has something coherent to respond to. This is not magic. This is not wishful thinking. This is the quantum mechanics of observation applied to the field of human experience with the same precision that physicists apply it to the behavior of particles. The mechanism is the same, the results are the same. What you observe, you change. What you refuse to observe continues to run in the background, shaping your reality without your participation. The choice, the only real choice that matters in this context is whether you are the observer or the observed. Whether you are the one who watches clearly or the one who is watched by forces you've never looked at directly. And I want to say something about the courage this requires, because I don't want to leave it unacknowledged. Looking clearly at your own life, at the patterns, the avoidances, the stories, the superpositions you've been maintaining, is not comfortable. It is not the kind of thing that feels good in the way that a pleasant afternoon feels good. It is the kind of thing that feels true. And true in the context of a life that has been organized around a certain level of comfortable untruth can feel like disruption before it feels like freedom. The courage to look is not the absence of discomfort. It is the willingness to look despite the discomfort. It is the decision made in each moment, not once but continuously, to be the observer rather than the one who looks away. And it is in the direct observation of what happens to people who make this choice the single most transformative decision available to a human being. Not because it leads to some specific outcome, not because it guarantees a particular configuration of your life, but because the observer, the pure, clear, non-grasping awareness that watches without flinching, is not a technique or a practice or a skill. It is your actual nature. It is what you are prior to every story you've ever told about yourself. And the moment you inhabit it fully, the moment you stop being the one who is watched by their own unexamined life and become the one who watches it clearly, everything becomes available. Not everything you want, everything that is actually real. And real is better than wanted. Real is the thing that endures. Real is the thing that the phase transition produces when the observation is clear enough. Real is the collapse of superposition into the specific, workable, livable form that your life has been approaching through every moment of honest looking you have ever done. You have been looking for longer than you realize. The accumulation is real, the threshold is real, the coherence is real. And the collapse, the specific, irreversible, phase transitioning collapse of this particular version of your life into something unmistakably real, is available to you right now in this moment through the quality of your observation. Watch what happens when you stop looking away. That's not belief. That's quantum mechanics. The fact that you are still here, that you have watched this entire transmission, that you have done the practices, that you have looked at the thing you've been not looking at, that something in you recognized this before your mind could catch up. That is not an accident. That is coherence. That is a system that has been accumulating, approaching its threshold. That is the field responding to the quality of your observation with the one thing it can offer, the collapse of possibility into reality. Something in you recognized this before your mind could catch up. Something in you knew, even before the first word of this transmission, that this was the moment. Not because someone told you, because the observer in you, the pure awareness prior to story, the seeing before the seer, has been watching long enough to recognize the threshold when it arrives. And now you see. And what has been seen cannot be unseen. There is one more thing I want to say, and it is the thing I want you to carry with you most. The universe did not choose you because you are special in the way that specialness is usually meant. Elevated above others, selected for preferential treatment, cosmically favored in some way that others are not. The universe chose you because you looked, because in a field of people who have been taught to manage their experience rather than observe it, to react rather than witness, to keep the frosted glass in place because clarity is uncomfortable, you chose to look. You chose to watch. You chose to be the observer. And that choice, that sustained, accumulated, imperfect but persistent choice to direct clear attention at what has been unobserved, is the most powerful thing a human being can do, not because it controls reality, because it sees it clearly. And clarity is the only force that transforms without resistance. You are not here to fix your life. You are not here to manifest a specific outcome or force a particular collapse or achieve a predetermined version of yourself. You are here to watch with the quality of attention that changes what is watched simply by virtue of its clarity. To watch with the courage to look at what you've been pretending isn't there. To watch with the patience to hold the observation long enough for the phase transition to complete. You are the observer. This is not a role you are auditioning for. This is what you are. Prior to every story, prior to every pattern, prior to every superposition you've been maintaining in the unobserved background, you are the awareness that watches. You are the seeing before the seer. You are the most powerful position in the universe, not because you control it, but because you see it clearly. And what you see clearly, you change. If this transmission has landed somewhere real in you, share it with someone who is standing at their own threshold and hasn't yet found the courage to look. When you do that, you aren't just passing along a video. You are contributing your coherence to their field. You are giving them permission to look by demonstrating that you already did. The collective observation that creates amplifies what individual observation alone cannot complete. And when the noise of the day has settled tonight, when the stillness returns, come back and watch this again from that quieter place. What you see the second time is always different from what you see the first. You were never meant to look away. The observer is the most powerful position in the universe. What you watch, you change. What you avoid controls you. Now you see. And what has been seen cannot be unseen. There is a transmission on this channel called "Once you see the autopilot running everyone around you, nothing looks the same." If what we explored today has begun to open something in you, that video goes directly into the mechanism beneath the patterns. The invisible operating system that has been making decisions in your name. Watch it, and you will never look at your own reactions the same way again.